You want a business where you own things and rent them out and make money over and over and over and over and over again? That's not too complicated. It is the glamping business. Now, I own a party rental business where tents, tables, and chairs and stuff like that. So I've come across this business quite a bit. I'll get to my experience to that in a little bit. But the basics of this business is you take these tents right here. They're called bell tents. And you set them up, and then you put beds and furniture and maybe lights in there and make it really nice. And then you charge a premium to go set this up for people. Now, the customer base for this is all over the place. It could just be like a girl's birthday party in her backyard, and she has a bunch of friends over, and they're gonna just rent one tent and have 4 beds in it. This can be corporate events where they're doing some sort of team building thing, and you need to put a bunch of tents up. This could be for weddings where there's a whole bunch of guests, and this is the solution for people who are gonna stay the weekend or whatever. That's where I run into it. So we've been setting up big tents for weddings on people's property, and then another company comes in with these glamping tents, and we're watching them set them up, and then we're watching them put beds in there and stuff, and we're just like seeing they're putting up like 20 tents. And then I start getting wondering about it and start looking up the prices, and I'm like, holy crap, they just made a bunch of money, and they did this faster than we did because we're setting up an entire event. They're just rinse and repeating. It's the same thing over and over. And I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. And then my direct experience with this is there was a caterer who called me. They were doing a wedding for this really, really rich person. And the rich people wanted glamping tents, but for some reason, they don't know how to work Google. So the caterer asked me if I would do glamping. I said no, but then I started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, maybe I will. So I called him up and I said, hey, I'm willing to do this, but I'm doing it at cost because I have to buy everything. I'm not trying to rip them off or anything. I'm going to do the 6 tents that they need, but it's going to be exactly what I need to pay for it to get it all. And he said, let me check with them. They're super mega rich, so they didn't care. They said, yes, let's do it. So it was going to cost me $12,000 to get everything. And I was going with some of the higher end tents. I wasn't going with like the 300 ones from Amazon, but you can start with those. And then a couple days later, I started thinking like, wait, let me just see if anyone in my area does this. And Google, ooh, I know how to work Google. I found someone. I got a quote from him and it was gonna be $6,000 for him to do it. And I said, let's do it, because I'm already charging 12. So he set up 6 glamping tents for $6,000 with the delivery and all that. And I paid him $6 grand. They paid me 12. I made $6 grand for doing nothing. And then I start getting to talking to him, and he does this all the time. He mainly aims for like company events. At the time, he was setting up a quote for a company down near New York City, and it was going to be 300 tents. If I was just going by his minimum price of $300 for a setup, that was $90,000. I'm sure he's charging way more than that because he's got to drive quite far, lots of logistics involved. So he was probably making $150,000 by setting up 300 tents. But remember, there is beds and side tables and rugs in there and stuff, so it's not just the tents. So here's some of his prices just for the basic stuff. He can be anywhere from $300 for a single tent, single bed, up to around $500. He does do a little bit more for more beds in a tent. And then he also expanded this. Instead of going and setting them up for people to rent, he leased land from a town in the Adirondack Mountains and then put up, I think, 200 glamping tents. So people come to him now and rent the tents on this glamping campsite thing. But anyways, yeah, this is a fairly easy business to start. You got to get the right equipment, which is these bell tents. And like I said, you can get them on Amazon for cheap. And then if you end up needing more, what you do is you find them on Alibaba or AliExpress directly from China and just order a bunch. And then you get them for a nice, good price. And then beds and mattresses, you want to make sure that everything can kind of be broken down. You don't want to get like a bed that is just one giant piece that is going to take up a lot of room. You want to make sure everything folds up and tucks away. Same thing with side tables. You don't need a side table that is just one piece. It'd be better if it came in 3 pieces and you could put it together fast and easy, because the main thing about this is logistically, you have to deliver all of this in a box truck or trailer. So you need to get things that save on space. Now, I don't really need to get into it because hopefully you're not idiots, but yes, you're gonna need insurance on this. Yes, you're probably gonna need commercial auto insurance. And yes, you're probably gonna need workers' comp insurance because you're gonna need help. So this is a business that is niche, that is not crowded yet. The people that are doing it and doing it well are making lots of money. You make a little bit of money targeting local people just doing setups in their backyard or for their weddings. But the real money is corporate events. Like I said, he was probably making $150,000 off of one corporate event that was only 1 weekend of the year. And he's willing to travel to go do those things. You're not getting those in your town every single weekend. You do have to travel for those. The glamping business is not something that everyone's going to need, but the people that do need it don't have that many options. So if you own a glamping business and marketed it well, you probably make a lot of money.